for another episode of the Cozy Corner of Cinema, being recorded on this episode number 162, being recorded on Tuesday, May 6th, 2025 at 5:10 p.m. Of course, gotta have the hot cup of coffee. It feels very nice in my hands right now. That sounded dirty. Don't take that clip out of context. It's raining outside, man. I love driving through the rain. But you got to be careful when you're driving out there, man. You don't be driving like a madman, going over the place. And, sometimes you hit a puddle you don't realize. And God forbid you have a pothole disguised as a puddle. We got a couple potholes around here, man. And I tell you, boy, you having to get a whole new set of tires, man, just so you run over those. So if you're out there driving, be careful, be alert, watch out for your surroundings, but also take it in, man. I remember watching part of the for any of you Bruce Springsteen fans, the concerts, one of his concert documentary films, and there was one part that always kind of stuck with me when he's talking about the driving has become so much less about the freedom of the open road and more so about getting somewhere, about getting to and from work, and sort of the idea of having the entire world just right underneath you, man, right beneath you. You can go anywhere you want, man. It's just something they really kind of take for granted. But so days like this, man. On a beautiful rainy day, you go out there, you're in the rain, you're driving around, and if you got the windshield wipers on, you're staying safe, and then you get inside, you dry off, you get into some comfortable clothing, and that's what I'm talking about, man. You get all cozy, and you do what you gotta do, man, and you get yourself a hot beverage as well, cocoa, coffee, tea, make sure to drink water, though. You're gonna be keeping up on your H2O. I sometimes forget myself, but boy, man, you just get a total good amount of water and a hot beverage, and you're good to go, man. It's a wonderful feeling, man, I tell you. And so I hope you guys have been doing very well. There is a new Peephole Pictures coming out sometime soon. I don't know when. The benefit of not having a schedule to the Peephole Pictures episodes, unlike the top 10 lists or the Blu-ray episodes, is that I can ultimately release them whenever I feel like it. That the next film is ready to go, so it's got to be watched, notes taken, and assembled together, uploaded, so you may enjoy it. And I got some other things lined up with an acquaintance. We're going to have that released in the next 2 weeks or so, but that'll be posted, of course, on here and on Spotify, which I feel like I don't make apparent enough that the show is on YouTube and Spotify. I don't look at numbers or anything like that. It's more kind of a curiosity. Or let me put it like this: I don't focus on the numbers. I said it before, man. This is really just sort of I do these shows because if people get something out of it, that's great. But I'm not trying to if the episodes do great, that's great. I hope people got something out of it. I hope they walk away with a new idea of a film or a recommendation or something to keep in mind. But ultimately, I'm not trying to heavily market this thing, man. I'm not. I'm just doing it purely out of enjoyment. I've been doing this for over 2 years now. Haven't missed a week, and don't plan on it anytime soon. So, man, let me get a sip of this coffee. I'm going to talk about a couple of films here. I'm going to sort of run through a couple of recent theatrical films. I'm not going to spend too much time on them because they are new. One of them is not a brand new film, but newly seen. So I'm going to run through these fairly quickly and keep an eye on them should they be available on streaming services or in the any kind of maybe physical Blu-ray that gets released. First up, we're going to talk about the new film from Alain Guiraudie, who most famously, most known for Stranger by the Lake. And I thought I had seen that film, man. I was looking up that, I was like, have I seen Stranger by the Lake? And I honestly don't think I have. So, my bad on that. Well, not my bad. It'll be watch for next watch. But it's one where I was looking at that. I'm like, damn, and I'm fully aware of it, but I didn't know if I had seen it. But I'm more than sure I haven't. But it's got his new film out called Misericordia. This is a film from, I think, France, man. I don't know where this is from. They were all speaking French, so that'd probably make the most sense. But man, yeah, it's country of origin, France, Spain, and Portugal. That's why I didn't immediately say it was a French film because I was like, I think that I don't even know if it takes place in France. Truthfully, I'm not exactly sure. But anyways, I suppose it doesn't really matter. Well, I guess they actually filmed in France. You know, it doesn't matter, man. My geography is not the best. It was filmed in France. I'm looking here. I could go back and erase that, but I'm not gonna. Excellent, excellent film, man. It's one of these films that the lesser known about it, the better. I had seen the trailer at the cinema, and I said, "Ooh, that looks interesting." And next, I'm gonna be very brief and vague with this, not gonna give away a whole lot. We have this main fella, Jeremy, played by Felix Kiesel, and he's coming back to this kind of small town, and there's some ambiguity about his, there's I think it was his, a guy that he worked for. Anyways, he dies, and there's some tension there already. You know, the guy's son Vincent, played by Jean Baptiste Daron, he immediately is like, you know, they have him and Jeremy have had a little bit of a past together, you know, a little bit of a friendship, but they're at least it's hinted at, very, you know, small kind of friendship, but there is some real strong tension right there. I mean, he is just immediately like, "Hey, we don't want you here. You're gonna have sex with my ma. I don't want that. You gotta get out of here, man. And if you don't get out of here, I'm gonna keep beating the crap out of you." Because there are these great sequences where they don't even say anything. They just will start fighting, and it's the whole film's got this darkly comedic undertone to it, where it's not like laugh out loud funny. I don't think I laughed out loud once, but some of the situations and just some of the way that the scenes are assembled are funny in retrospect. The way there's this whole scene involving, you know, there's like a car ride, and where that leads to, it's like, all right, we're doing this now. But from there, that's probably all I'll give away. The situation gets more complicated with all these characters in the small town because it's such a tight knit community. Word travels fast, and I'll leave it at that. I should also say a solid performance from Jacques Develay, who plays plays a priest, and how he gets involved in the situation. And it's a solid. I almost hate to even say it's a dark comedy because they're going to be sitting there waiting for the laughs. And it's, like I said, it's more kind of funny in retrospect of just some of the situations. I mean, there are some intentionally funny moments, man. But like, you know, I'm not laughing out loud, but it's funny to kind of you know, kind of the problems that these characters get themselves into, and ultimately where the film kind of leads to. It's not a big conclusion, but it's like, all right, well, this is just one part of this guy's story, man. Whatever it goes on to after this, it ultimately doesn't matter. It's just this situation right now, and I thought it was very, very good. And the reason why I mentioned some of these films is that, I mean, you know, the first three I'm going to talk about that are contemporary films. I walked out and I said, man, that's one of my favorite things I've seen this year, because man, there's been some films this year that I has gotten a lot of praise. A lot of people are really liking them, and then I just watch some of them, and I'm like, man, I'm not even trying to be, you know, you don't want to be intentionally contradicting, man, because then it's sort of like, what are you gaining at to be different, man, you know? But some of these, there's just been some big films this year that have gotten some, you know, big kind of critical responses that I'm like, man, you know, I'm glad people enjoy them, but boy, oh boy, they're just not for me. Definitely not for me. These kinds of these four films I'm going to talk about are definitely more my style than some of the loud sort of spectacle films that are taking up the 2,000 plus screens. But new distributed film from Mubi. This one's directed by Miguel Gomes. Grand Tour. Another one I didn't really know much about. I'd seen that they had posted about it, and with Mubi, I can never. It's always a gamble if it's going to straight to Mubi or it's going to be a theatrical release. Because a lot of times, if it is on Mubi, it may not be in your region, and I guess you could always just get a VPN or you can find another way to go about it. But Grand Tour. It's a shame this one isn't getting more of a wide theatrical release, even more. When I say wide theatrical release, man, I ain't talking about like 2,000 plus theaters. This is not going to play in 2,000 plus theaters, man. But I'm talking about this just seemed, you know, this played briefly and then it's already gone, man. Or actually, no, I'm sorry, it's leaving this week. I don't know if it's actually already gone, but it came out on Friday. So, anyways, But again, this is one that I think, I'm not like Misericordia, the lesser known is the better, but I think with this one, um, if you're not walking into it waiting for a traditional narrative, then you won't be as if you're like if you're sitting there waiting for it to finally kick in, then you're gonna be a little frustrated because what is interesting about this film is that the first half hour or so, I'd say the first half hour to maybe even 40 minutes, I'm kind of just throwing a number out there. It's almost kind of intentionally leaving you in the dark. We got these wonderful international settings through Asia. We follow this main guy, Edward, played by Gonzalo Waddington. And a benefit of this film as well is I didn't really know much of the cast in this film. I don't think they have done much previous to this. Okay, that's like an immediate lie because this actor, Gonzalo Waddington, has many credits to his IMDb. So I'm gonna contradict myself there. They weren't familiar to me. There we go. That's a way to play it safe. So I'm not as like, oh man, I know that actor and all that. I can just kind of get into the character. But he's traveling through, and we don't really know what his deal is, man. He's very, he seems kind of down. He's kind of going through these settings. It's beautifully shot, by the way. I mean, that's why I say this should be seen and theatrically if the opportunity lends itself to you, because that gorgeous black and white photography, man. I mean, the way that they frame those shadows, man. When you see, oh shoot, I'm sorry, I hit the table. Who am I apologizing to? When you see those shadows and those silhouettes and that beautiful black and white photography, man, looks to be 16 millimeter blown up to 35. My gosh, man, it just looks incredible. I'm sure on your TV as well, it's gonna look great as well. But actually, what kind of statement is that? I'm sure as well it'll look good as well. Oh my gosh, man, I need some more of this coffee. I'm falling asleep with the microphone. Better to fall asleep on the microphone than to fall asleep at the wheel. Goodness gracious. But anyways, it's all beautifully shot. And then halfway through, man, we get more of an idea of something close to a plot, man. And I don't even mean to say that in a negative way, like, oh, something close to a plot, but we get another element that's put into the film where we get some context to these situations. The next one where even when we have an idea of what's going on, it still goes about itself at a very casual pace. I think one of the things that I'm really connected with both Misericordia, if I'm saying that right, or is it Misericordia? I'm not, I'm one way or the other. But both films have a very relaxed pace. These are not these are not going to play in you know and your giant, large format screen. This is going to be playing at probably a smaller cinema, and this is, going to be for audiences who are able to kind of sit there and not have to chew on popcorn or drink, copious amounts of cola. Man, not that there's anything wrong with that. I sincerely don't mean that in a disparaging way, but some films you just don't want someone chewing a pepperoni pizza next to you. I don't know, man. I mean, to each their own. But that's just, I'm good, man. It's a quiet film, but when it does get loud, the soundtrack really bangs through. I'd love to hear this like in a great surround sound. I hope this gets a physical release as well, because Mubi don't always release their titles on Blu-ray. At least not in America. I think they've mostly have them in the UK that they get Blu-rays of. I'm thinking of like recent-ish, I should say, besides something big like The Substance, which of course is a big, Academy-nominated film, so that'll, Academy Award nominated film, so that'll have more attention than something like Bird, which is an excellent film that has a UK Blu-ray. I don't think that has a stateside Blu-ray. Or The Five Devils from a couple years ago with Adele Exarchopoulos. It's a very interesting film. I think that has only a UK Blu-ray. And I get it. It's difficult. You can't put all these films out on Blu-ray. I mean, at least maybe they don't want to because they don't think it'll sell as well. I don't know, but I'd like to get. I think this would look great on a 4K. I mean, it would look gorgeous theatrically, so I think that photography would really pop. But it's a solid, slow-paced film. Both of them are you sit there, you don't play, Angry Birds on your telephone. Not that you would in the cinema because that's distracting and you're not there to play games, you're there to watch the film. But even at home, sitting there on your couch, you turn on the app and you're going to want to sit there and just immerse yourself in the film, man. Although I will say, if I had any real complaints to this film, it's only two complaints. One more egregious, one less egregious. The less egregious being that some of the comedy doesn't really work. Actually, I would say almost all of the comedy doesn't really work. There's some parts that aren't going for like jokes, but some of the dialogue in traditional jokes, I should say, they're not trying to be overly comedic, but some of there is some humor in the movie that just totally didn't land for me because it didn't. I thought it was a little out of place for the context for the rest of the film. And number two, this is supposed to take place in 1917, but then you'll have street shots, and it's jumping through time. It doesn't need to be immediate. Some of the photography is not all from 1917, but I would say in the context of the film, it is a little. It took me out of it a little bit to have these rainy kind of jungle scenes set in this era, and then you cut to contemporary footage, and you have like new cars and a lot of people wearing masks, presumably filmed in 2022 or whatever, and it's a little like, man, I don't know if I would have done that, but hey, it's a solid film. Again, one of my favorites of the year. Gorgeous looking film. Keep an eye on it. It's one that you really want to sit with and really just kind of allow the film to take over you. And I actually say, don't watch a trailer for these, man. Don't watch a trailer for any of these movies. Because even I have the IMDb page up right here, and they're giving away more of the quote unquote plot, but these scenes don't even happen until the middle of the movie, man. So don't be sitting there like, what is going on, man? I can't follow this movie. It's all right, man. Just enjoy it. Sit there and enjoy it, man. So another film. Oh my gosh, I said I was going to talk about these films briefly, and it's almost half the episode. Well, let me get a sip of this coffee. We're going to talk about this great film. I'm going to talk about the new film from from Lorcan. Is it Lorcan? Lorcan? Lorcan or Lorson? I don't know how to say that name. Finnegan. And you say, Dan, what does that name mean? And I'm going to tell you what that means in a moment. You better calm down. He directed the film Vivarium a couple of years ago in 2019 with Jesse Eisenberg and Imogen Poots. An interesting film. I don't know if it totally worked for me. I think the idea is maybe stronger than the execution. I should also say that's a Dublin name, so Lorcan. No, that doesn't actually make no sense at all. But he has a new film out. And knowing that he directed Vivarium, it adds an interesting kind of layer to the film and kind of the paranoia going on. But we have this new film, Nicolas Cage, The Surfer, and it's funny talking to an acquaintance of mine. We were discussing some contemporary films coming out, and we were having a wonderful conversation about some recent films he liked that I did and vice versa. And I said, man, I just saw The Surfer, and that's one of the best films I've seen this year. And he said, I don't want to get too much into his business, but he was saying that everyone who's been coming out of that film, there's been not many of them, but they've all hated it. And I said, yeah, I'm not really surprised, man. It's a film that I guess on paper, it's almost like you're trapped in an open cell, man. You ever hear that expression? You're trapped in an open cell, or you're a prisoner in an open cell. You have this character, the surfer. He's just the surfer, played by Nicolas Cage. He's in this part of Australia. He's going there because he's going to get this house, his old house on top of a hill. He wants to take his son there, and he's like, you know what, man? We're going surfing. You see those waves, and it's the perfect view of the hilltop. But oh my gosh, he can't even get to the beach before there's a problem going on. He goes to walk down, and oh my gosh, he's already starting problems. So he goes on the beach, and he's immediately, they're like, hey, you got to get out of here, man. Don't live here. Don't surf here. And he says, oh my gosh, I used to live here, but now I don't anymore. And again, like Misericordia, I would call this almost a dark comedy in a way because of how out there and how absurd this film gets. And I don't mean how absurd it gets visually, but it definitely does. But just the lengths that Nicolas Cage's character gets himself into, the situations he gets himself into, and the unwarranted aggression from these locals. All of them, well, almost all of them, it put a smile on my face. I loved this film. It's a film that it's a very hallucinogenic film. There's a lot of times where sequences are seemingly out of order. We get flashes to different sequences. But what I like about it is that it doesn't all just do that. There are sobering moments to set the film back in reality. I think it'd be very easy to kind of just be like, here are these crazy effects, and it doesn't need to make any sense, and you fill in the blanks. How many films do you see where they're like, you fill in the blanks, and I'm like, man, what are you doing? It's not, you didn't even give me a pencil to fill it in, man. I'm not just gonna be like, well, it's not. It's one thing to kind of draw your own conclusion. It's another thing to be like, brother, do you have an idea? Because I don't, Um, but here, it all comes together, man. Of just how low and low he keeps getting, how everything just keeps going wrong for him. It's the heat of the Australian sun kind of beating down on you. He's in this parking lot and he just keeps getting himself these worse and worse situations, and it seems like everyone is out to get him, man. But not in a way where it feels mean spirited, in an ugly way. Where some films, I like films about outsiders who are maybe in an area they shouldn't be in, like they're in like a town that's not welcoming to them. I'm not really a big fan of like Eden Lake. People like that film and that's fine. It's not really for me, but there's a lot in that film that I think is really good. The feeling early on of like the couple in that movie, they go to like this beach and they're these teenagers who are just being terrible, and it's just like, ooh, you just like feel uncomfortable when you're watching it, man. And this doesn't have exactly that, because I do think that when you have some of these situations that he gets into, it gets so absurd and it gets so out there that you can't help but almost laugh at times. I mean, but is able to hone it all in. It was interesting talking to my girlfriend about the movie, because especially when it comes to the third act, we, I guess, kind of disagreed. She thought it went on longer than it needed to in the third act, whereas I thought it actually was pretty. It was pretty, and I don't want to say perfect and flawless, but to me, I didn't have any issue with the way the whole film is going about, because when you get into the third act and the film basically becomes something else, I mean, it becomes distinctly the third act, I thought that was actually exactly what the film needed, because it could easily have just kind of meandered into the ground where you see so many, I mean, geez Louise, man, I'm thinking of one film that's coming to mind. I'm not going to say it because, it's not like a big film, but people like it and like all that. But there's one film where you just have a character who's just like messed up on drugs, and I'm like, man, is this all we're going to do is just have this character messed up on drugs? There's no evolution of any, not even necessarily story of anything else. And nope, that's the film. And I'm like, man, there's nothing I'm getting out of this film, and I wish I'd be more specific, because I'd like to, there are films where a character's going through a trippy journey like that, and that's fine. But this film in mind, I'm like, man, what is the point of any of this? This is just not why even make it, or at least why even present it in this way, not why even make it. All art should be made, it's sort of like, that's how you express yourself. But with The Surfer, it doesn't do that. It really is able to kind of build it up, build it up, build it up, and then the third act comes, and it feels like the gradual next step, where it's sort of like this character has, I mean, for all intents and purposes, really should just not put himself in these situations, but then they just push and push, and it's sort of like he is not immediately aggressive. He's immediately, he's frustrated and annoyed with these people, and it becomes almost comical. Though, I mean, it does become comical the way they are just out to mess with him. They, no matter what he does, and then they start. The film tricks the audience, which is great, because then you as an audience member are thinking, wait, what is exactly happening? But it all works to a great crescendo of a third act. And when I say crescendo, I mean like a big. I mean like a deserving. Like the third act is works with the rest of the film. I just had so much fun with this, man, and it's a film like this, I'm just kind of surprised has been really under talked about in a way where I'm not hearing anyone talk about this, man. I've seen people talk about, like, oh, I think that's coming out soon, but I don't know, none of my acquaintances have seen it. And even at the cinema, I mean, it's already reduced to 2 show times, in the early morning and the early night, or in the late night. So it's like, man, this is going to be gone soon. But hopefully when this becomes streaming and more widely available, this is able to kind of stretch its legs a bit, because I just had so much fun with this film, man. This is really, when I walked out of the theater, it's like one of those great feelings that you have where, I've seen some films lately, or I've seen some like new 2025 movies like in theaters, and I'm just like, man, this is just not, this is just not for me, man. And that's okay. Not all films are gonna be for you, but this was one where I walked out of it and I was just like, man, that is just almost like a big bottle of water when you've been walking through the hot Australian sun all day. It's sort of like, man, I feel refreshed. I'm good to go, man. I love this film, man. I really, really love this film, and I mean, if it's just solid, man. I'm like stumbling over my words because of how enthusiastic I am about this film. It was one of the very best, very, very best I've seen this year so far. If I had to make, I'm not going to make it, whatever, the top list. I'm definitely not doing that, but it would be in the conversation for sure. And I guess I'm almost at the end of the episode, so I'm going to briefly talk about one last theatrical film that I saw, but not before I get a sip of this coffee. All right. Let's go back to 1981. The new restoration from Arbelos Films. Arbelos are a wonderful company, distributed many great. They've done restorations of many great films into new releases, but this is their newest one, which I'm sure will get a Blu-ray at some point. I think it's being screened around theatrically for a little while longer. But from, like I said, 1981, Robina Rose directed experimental film Nightshift. This stars this. Now, okay, I gotta admit, I might be a bit of a dummy because I didn't really know who this person was. Well, I kind of did. It says punk icon Jordan. Now, I don't really know a lot about punk music, so I don't know if they mean punk music or like fashion. I think they mean fashion. But I was sitting there in the theater. I'm like, man, I bet she was in Jubilee by Derek Jarman. And wouldn't you know it, she was in Jubilee. It's actually one of the few films she did. It's a 16 millimeter experimental film, very loose in narrative over the course of one night, following Jordan, who is a receptionist at a hotel, with this very dreamlike vibe going on. Characters wander in and out of the frame. They address the audience as though we were the receptionists. They want certain things. They want to tell us certain things, or maybe they don't want to tell us anything at all. Maybe they want to walk by and do a magic trick and then eat the end of a cigarette, so we are just watching the film in these parts through her eyes, and she does mundane tasks like counting the change in the drawer, washing the windows, writing up receipts. And it's a film that I think, obviously, it's not going to be widely available theatrically, of course, but it's like I'm talking about with Grand Tour. It's a film that you just sit with, man, and you get a real, what's the word I'm looking for? What do they call it? It's like, not low key. It's like, is it lo-fi? That's a music thing, I think. Anyways, you get this really kind of like, almost calm, sort of like, dreamlike obvious, like sleepy feeling where it's, almost like when you've been up all night and, you're not really, you don't really question a lot of the more kind of strange things going on. You really just kind of take it all in, and you're sitting there with Jordan, and you're enjoying the company of these people and their own personal lives. It's one that it's not gonna be for everyone. I don't think if you don't like very quiet, slow, experimental films like this, then I would say you're not gonna probably get much out of it. But between the droning kind of background noise, the way that there's not a whole lot of dialogue in the movie, but the way that it's like that crisp kind of audio that it picks up, or it sounds almost like through a radio, all of it, and this phonograph that she keeps on playing. One of my favorite experiences theatrically this year. It was so great to see this on a big, beautiful screen and a big, beautiful restoration. Keep an eye out on this from Arbelos Films. I'm a really big fan of the films they've done work for. They've done films like Satan Tango, of course, Mutual Appreciation, The Juniper Tree, which I actually saw theatrically as well. Years and years and years ago. The Last Movie with Dennis Hopper, Funeral Parade of Roses. They've done a bunch of stuff. Giuseppe Makes a Movie. So it's cool stuff, man. And I would talk about it more in depth, but I am running out of time. So thank you guys for listening to this episode. I'm gonna finish off this coffee and gonna get the job done and then some. And I gotta go see if it's raining outside, man. I gotta go see what the hell's going on out there. But hey, you guys take care, and until next time.